Arthur Conan Doyle and J.M Barrie were great friends. We know J.M Barrie for his work Peter Pan. In 1893, the two collaborated in Jane Annie or the Good Conduct Prize, a comic opera. It opened at the Savoy Theatre in London on May the 13th, 1893, and kept going for 7 weeks, but it was considered a failure. At this time, Barrie wrote The Adventure of the Two Collaborators on the flyleaf of a window to Thrums and presented it to Conan Doyle. And thus, The Adventure of the Two Collaborators. In bringing to a close the adventures of my fringed Sherlock Holmes, I perforce reminded that he never, save on the occasion which you will now hear, brought his singular career to an end, consented to act in any mystery which was concerned with persons who made livelihood by their pen. I am not particular about the people I mix amongst for business purposes, he would say, but at literary characters I draw the line. We were in our rooms in Baker Street one evening. I remember, by the centre table writing out The Adventure of the Man Without a Cork Leg, which had so puzzled the Royal Society and all the other scientific bodies of Europe, and Holmes was amusing himself with a little revolver practice. It was his custom of a summer evening to fire around my head, just shaving my face, until he'd made a photograph of me on the opposite wall, and it is a slight proof of his skill that many of these portraits and pistol shot are considered admirable likeness. I happened to look out of the window and perceived two gentlemen advancing rapidly along Baker Street. Asked him who they were. He immediately lit his pipe and, twisting himself on a chair into the figure eight, replied, "They are two collaborators in a comic opera, and their play has not been a triumph." I sprang from my chair to the ceiling in amazement, and he then explained, "My dear Watson, they are obviously men of some low calling. That much you should be able to read in their faces, those little pieces of blue paper which they fling angrily at them are from Durrant's press notices. Of these, they have obviously hundreds about their person. See how their pockets bulge. They would not dance on them if they were pleasant reading." I again sprang to the ceiling, which is much dented, and shouted, "Amazing! But they may be mere authors." "No," said Holmes, "for mere authors only get one press notice a week. Only criminals, dramatists, and actors get them by the 100. "Then they may be actors." "No, actors would come in a carriage." "Can you tell me anything else about them?" "A great deal. From the mud on their boots of the tall one, I perceive he comes from South Norwood. The other is obviously a Scotch author." "How can you tell that?" "He is carrying in his pocket a book I can clearly see, Old Lichsomson. Would anyone but the author be likely to carry a book about with such a title?" I had to confess this was improbable. It was now evident that the two men, if such they could be called, were seeking our lodgings. I have said often that my friend Holmes seldom gave way to any emotion of any kind. By he now turned livid with passion. Presently this gave place to a strained look of triumph. "Watson," he said, "that big fellow has for years taken credit for my most remarkable doings, but at last I have him. At last." Up I went to the ceiling, and when I returned the strangers were in the room. "I perceive, gentlemen," said Mr. Sherlock Holmes, "that you are presently afflicted by an extraordinary novelty. The handsomer of our visitors asked in amazement how he knew this, but the big one only scowled. "You forget that you wear a ring on your fourth finger," replied Mr. Holmes calmly. I was about to jump to the ceiling, when the big brute interposed. "That tommy rot is all well for the public, Holmes," he said, "but you can drop it before me. And Watson, if you go up to the ceiling again, I shall make you stay there." Here I observed a curious phenomenon. My friend Sherlock Holmes shrank. He became small before my eyes. I looked longingly at the ceiling, but dared not. "Let us cut the first 4 pages," said the big man, "and proceed to business. I want to know why." "Allow me," said Mr. Holmes, with some of his old courage. "You want to know why the public does not go to your opera?" "Exactly," said the other ironically, "as you perceive by my shirt stud." He added more gravely, "And as you can only find out one way, I must insist on your witnessing an entire performance of the piece." It was an anxious moment for me. I shuddered, for I knew that if Holmes went, I should have to go with him. But my friend had a heart of gold. "Never," he cried fiercely. "I would do anything for you save that." "Your continued existence depends on it," said the big man menacingly. "I would rather melt into air," replied Holmes, proudly taking another chair. "But I can tell you why the public don't go to your piece without sitting the thing out myself." "Why?" "Because," replied Holmes calmly, "they prefer to stay away." A dead silence followed that extraordinary remark. For a moment the two intruders gazed with awe upon the man who had unravelled their mystery so wonderfully. Then, drawing their knives, Holmes grew less and less until nothing was left save a ring of smoke which slowly circled the ceiling. The last words of great men are often noteworthy. These were the last words of Sherlock Holmes. "Fool, fool, I have kept you in luxury for years. By my help, you have ridden extensively in cabs where no author was seen before. Henceforth, you will ride in buses." The brute sank into a chair aghast. The other author did not turn a hair. The end. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and till the next episode, bye bye.